Do you know what Kit Kats are made out of? Google this. Kit Kats are made out of crushed up Kit Kats. Okay, but you didn't answer my question. What was the first Kit Kat made out of? This is not that. This is a suit jacket, and it's made of really specific things. And if you ever wanted to know what was inside of this guy, we're gonna find out today. I had this awesome opportunity to destroy this jacket recently, and I realized I really wanted to share it. So this side of the jacket you can see is completely intact, but I've completely opened this side of the jacket, which I'm super juiced about. Suit jackets are so interesting because they have been described as the modern reverse equivalent of like a man's corset. Take that however you want. It is giving structure to arguably the softest section of our body in the way that a corset does. And so there is a ton of structure specifically in the front of the suit jacket. And there are a couple of reasons why you would want to know. One, so that you understand what's alterable and what's not alterable. What things must be right from the start for that jacket to be right for you. And if you lose weight, gain weight, whatever, change, you wanna know how flexible this is. You are looking at the inside of the front, one front panel of the suit jacket, okay? I've removed the lining and the sleeve. So let's start at the top. All the way up here, this is where our shoulder seam is. We've still got shoulder padding in here. This is an older jacket. This is pretty thick padding we've got here. We've actually got 2 little half moons sewn together. This is a standard foam with kind of a insulate, I don't want to call it an interfacing, but sort of an interfacing that's loosely keeping this shoulder pad together. I do remove these a lot now, to be totally honest with you. And then on the front side of that shoulder pad, we've got a section of canvas that's been pad stitched to the back of that. All of this stitching that occurs inside of this panel, as you know, you can't see it from the outside. There's a reason and a system for putting all of that in to get that final product. So as I peel that back, you see where that was. That's the shoulder. We see a shoulder seam here. We see the seam allowance going into the shoulder. We see multiple types of interfacing, a thin, almost cord-like, really strong interfacing that was right at the edge, followed by a fusible, so melt it with the iron, it's got glue on it, fusible interfacing going along all of these seams and openings to help keep that curve the way that it is, not get stretched out, fit into the other pattern pieces, etc. You see all of this black interfacing here? This is a layered gray and black. Doesn't necessarily have to be different colors. They are the same type of soft, fusible, web-style interfacing that's being fused to the front of this jacket, and it's traveling, you can't see it because I can't lift everything, it's traveling straight down and then curving along here, right there. This whole section is all of this right here. So if you ever have an issue where maybe the jacket has gotten too big for you now and you have too much fabric right here at the armhole, especially when you move your arm down, that's because the suit jacket is structured intentionally to make that area stiff. And so if you've gone down in a size, that is still gonna be puckered out like that because literally it was designed to sit that way. Next down, as we travel toward the hem, is usually gonna be an internal pocket. That's what you're seeing here. This, my friends, is the biggest reason that I refuse to reline suit jackets. I get requests for it all the time, and this right here, little beauty, is the reason that I say absolutely not. There's not enough money in the world. The way that this jacket is put together versus going back and trying to reset lining on top of this is an unholy nightmare. As you can see, we've got different types of interfacing, linings, self what we would call self fabric, or the fabric that's used for the outer of the jacket, creating these two little lips of the welt, and then of course the pocket and this lower pocket as well. So I've cut, to show you this, I cut the lining off of the edge of this pocket and then seam ripped across the shoulder and all the way down the side seam, the bottom, and the front edge of the lapel. So that's how you're able to see all of this in all of its glory. We have an unusual shape of armhole because traditionally a suit jacket does not have a seam going straight down the side. There will typically be a full panel here, meaning that there's a seam here and a seam here, but not a seam straight down the side. That also has to do with the fact that a suit traditionally has a two-part sleeve, a larger section across the front and a smaller section across the back with a seam going directly over the bicep to give us, again, you guessed it, shaping and structure. So that's why this armhole looks the way that it does, because it's reaching all the way back to where this seam is going to meet a secondary seam going down the armhole. And all of that comes together to give us all different types of styles and shapes with a garment that seems, aside from fabric, to be very unchanged over the last many decades. The suit jacket still looks like the suit jacket, but there's a lot that we can do to change the fit, the style, whatever. All right, now that you can see all of this structure around the armhole, you can see that in the front, the canvas, much heavier, and has that fusible on top of it. All of this is giving stiffness to the chest. But then as we move back, we're going under the arm and back into an area of the body where we see a lot of movement right there. We need interfacing to keep the structure of the armhole consistent and not bag out over time, but we don't want a lot of structure like the front because we're trying to keep that movement. And so instead, they've opted for, again, a soft, fusible, glued on interfacing that will move with the body that's in it. And then just a little bit of that cord, again, that gives it a little bit of staying power. And usually they literally call that stay tape. But I don't like to use that term because it's not adhesive, so tape makes it confusing, and let's just not call it that. It's a cord. It's a cord there for staying. Next up, we've got the pocket from the outside. I'm gonna flip to show you. So this is what it looks like. Lovely, beautiful, can't see any stitching from the outside. But from the inside, we've got a ton going on here. Let's see if I can, yes, perfect. You can also see that more interfacing is traveling all the way down that front panel, but not that side panel. And again, that is to give us a little bit of looseness where the body bends on the side and a little bit of structure where we're looking for a nice smooth. Basically, we want this garment to glide over the body. That's how they would traditionally say, that's how we want the suit jacket to fit. We want it to glide over the front, but we want it to be tailored throughout the back. Anyway, this is that pocket. And again, we've got tons of different types of interfacing all around because this is literally a hole cut into the garment. It's faced and structured and beautiful in the end, but when you're going through it, you're essentially cutting straight into the garment and trying to cover all of those raw edges. That's why there's so many different layers of fabric here. The lapel. Let me flip this to the outside again so that you can see. Collar into the lapel. Little bit of anatomy here. We're also gonna call this our roll line. That is where the garment rolls. Now, this is a really common misconception, is that it's just ironed in that way, and that is completely untrue. The way that the garment is styled and designed dictates the roll line. So you can't just iron a new one in. Let me show you why. This piece, which is on the inside of the garment but not made out of lining fabric like this is called the facing, and this is called a self-facing because we're using our self fabric. When I pull this back, let's lift this little, look at all of that. It is wild. So up here, you're seeing a zigzag stitch that's holding in place the felt on the back of the collar. Awesome. all of that would have been put in way before the garment was finished. In terms of order of operations, this also feeds into the why can't that be altered? Well, because, and I'm sure I've said this before, but it's just the easiest way to say it. You just can't take the eggs out of the baked cake. You can't separate a thing sometimes once it's done. You can't go back and go, oh, I'm just gonna change that one thing. They have to happen in the order that they happen. Anyway, you're seeing your notched collar here. That in here is a bunch of small seam allowances with little snips that allow us to get these nice hard corners and right angles. This is one of the hardest parts of this jacket. And then on the inside, you'll see, of course, that you have sort of a mitered edge there where two 90-degree angles-ish, 90, are coming together. As we come down, this is what I want you to see. This edge here, this is where our roll line is. And this is where our canvas is stopping. So because of all of this stitching around it, it's a little hard to see, but if you look really closely, I want you to look under. Do you see this white creamy versus the heathered canvas interfacing right there? That is another version of stay tape. And that has been stitched in right there. Here's some of the white stitching right there, stitched right here, because that is where they intended that lapel to fold back, okay? So the interfacing is being stitched and fused directly up to where it stops, and where it stops is where it then allows the lapel to fold back like that, to loosely fall away and fall out. Now there's a second trick here. The other thing that makes the roll line possible, wherever that is, this piece, this whole front panel at this section, you can almost even see it because this is an old jacket, so this is a great example. Can you barely see this stitching, this seam right here? Can you barely see that this side of the fabric is being pushed gently outside, so that instead of having a seam right on the edge like that, it's slightly turned out like that? That is intentional. This piece was cut smaller on this seam than this piece was. And it is so, the smaller piece will sit like this and pull the outer piece gently out. So we have a lot of really important mechanics going on here between different parts of the garment. And that's why things like this, it seems like, oh, can't you just, oh, I'm sure you could just press it back in place. No, we have told this garment what to do by all the things we have bound it to. We have bound it to interfacing, canvas, and stay tape. There are 5 layers of different types of interfacing right here. And then, not only that, but we cut it too short and went, no, you're gonna come over here. And that is what it's doing. It's telling it where to go. So when suit jackets are made, they're being told exactly what to do. Trying to force them otherwise doesn't work on purpose. It's designed exactly to be what it is. When a suit jacket gets to be too big or too small, the reason that it's time to get a new one in a lot of cases is because not just that things age, not just that the materials get older over time, sure, but that's not the biggest deal. The biggest deal is that when you change all over. You change unexpectedly. I mean, I think about this now more than ever after being pregnant. You change in ways that you can't anticipate. And a garment made for your previous body may not be the right garment for the body that you have now. And that's a good thing. We should embrace that. We should grow with that. So I guess I'm really wanting to show you all of this to say that now you know what makes it all up, and you know why it looks the way that it does. You can understand why and how styles change, you change, and over time, you know, as much as we love these garments, sometimes it's time to move on and then just destroy them and find out what's inside, like Stretch Armstrong. Ask me questions on this one. Comment, like, do all the things. But questions, I will answer them. Thank you so much. See you at the next one.